The Galactic Council chamber fell completely silent when the alien ship appeared on every display screen. Captain Dren of the Velthary merchant vessel Quiet Dawn had done what no species had attempted in 300 years. He had requested emergency landing rights on the quarantined world called Earth. Grand Chancellor Morthus rose from his throne at the center of the council ring. His ancient body, covered in silver scales that had seen 12 centuries of galactic politics, trembled with barely controlled anger. Around him sat representatives from 417 species, each one frozen in shock at what they were witnessing. "You dare to violate Quarantine Order 7? Morthus's voice echoed through the massive chamber, bouncing off crystalline walls that stretched upward into darkness. "The humans are contained for a reason, Captain Dren." The holographic image of Dren flickered above the central platform. He was a small creature by galactic standards, barely 2 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin the color of storm clouds. His ship floated in the blackness of space, smoke pouring from 3 of its 4 engine sections. "Grand Chancellor, my vessel is dying." Dren's voice carried the desperation of a being facing certain death. "The Harken Raiders hit us near the outer spiral. We lost main power, life support is failing, and the nearest council repair station is 47 cycles away. Earth is 3 cycles distant. My crew will not survive without immediate repairs." Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Species who had been enemies for millennia now whispered to each other, united in their fear of one simple word: Earth. Ambassador Krell of the Synther. Collective rose from her seat, her mechanical body clicking and whirring as she moved. The Synther had joined their consciousness to machines 10,000 years ago, and they remembered everything, every victory, every defeat, every mistake. "The humans were quarantined for good reason," Krell stated, her voice carrying no emotion. "They are unpredictable, dangerous. When they developed faster-than-light travel 60 years ago, they immediately began exploring without permission. They made contact with 17 species in their first year alone. 17. They shared technology freely, asked questions constantly, and showed no understanding of proper galactic hierarchy. They are curious," another voice added. This was Elder Tom of the Pellis, a species of gentle giants who preferred peace above all else. "Curiosity is not a crime. Curiosity combined with rapid technological advancement is extremely dangerous," Krell countered. "In 60 years, the humans have developed weapons that rival Council standards. They have built ships that can outrun our fastest cruisers. And they have done all of this while completely isolated from galactic resources. Imagine what they could accomplish with access to our knowledge." Grand Chancellor Morthus raised his clawed hand for silence. The chamber immediately quieted. "The quarantine will remain in place. Captain Dren, you will adjust your course to the emergency station at Relay Point 9. Your crew will have to survive until then." "Grand Chancellor, Relay Point 9 is 61 cycles away. My navigation was damaged in the attack." Dren's image flickered again, and those watching could see the fear in his 4 eyes. "We will die before we reach it. Earth is our only hope." "Then you will die," Morthus said coldly. "The quarantine exists to protect the galaxy from human contamination. One merchant vessel is an acceptable loss." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some species agreed with Morthus, believing the quarantine was essential. Others, particularly the smaller species, who remembered what it felt like to be considered expendable, argued for compassion. The argument grew louder, more heated, until a new voice cut through the chaos. "Perhaps we should ask the humans what they think." Every head turned toward the speaker. He stood at the back of the chamber, a figure that should not have been there. Human, male, average height by human standards, with dark skin and gray hair that spoke of age and experience. He wore a simple blue uniform with a small patch showing a planet wrapped in silver lines. Security forces immediately moved toward him, weapons raised. But the human simply smiled and raised his hands. "My name is Ambassador Thomas Webb," he said calmly. "And before you shoot me, you might want to check your sensors. I did not come here alone." The main display screen shifted from Dren's dying ship to something far more alarming. The space around the council station was no longer empty. 17 human vessels had appeared from nowhere, their hulls dark and angular, their weapon systems clearly visible. They had not been there moments before. They had simply materialized, as if space itself had delivered them. "Impossible," Krell whispered. "Cloaking technology at this level does not exist." "It does now," Thomas replied. "My people have been busy during our 60 years of quarantine. We had a lot of time to think, to build, to prepare. And we have been watching you, Grand Chancellor. We have been watching all of you." Morthus stepped down from his throne, his ancient eyes fixed on the human. "You violate the quarantine. You bring weapons to the council chamber. You threaten the governing body of the galaxy. Do you understand what you have done?" Thomas walked forward slowly, his hands still raised, his expression peaceful. "I understand perfectly. I have done exactly what you forced us to do. For 60 years, Earth has been isolated. We received your messages clearly. Stay away. Do not explore. Do not grow. Do not become a threat. And we listened. We stayed home. We built our civilization. We prepared for the day when we would have to defend ourselves." He stopped at the center of the chamber, directly below the holographic image of Dren's damaged ship. "But we are not here to fight. We are here because a ship is dying, and its captain asked for help. That is what humans do. We help, even when it is dangerous, even when it breaks your rules. You cannot simply ignore galactic law," Morthus growled. "Watch us," Thomas said quietly. "Captain Dren, this is Ambassador Webb. Adjust your course for Earth. Our repair stations will be ready when you arrive. Your crew will be safe, fed, and given whatever they need to continue their journey." Dren's image flickered with confusion. "But the quarantine is over," Thomas interrupted. "As of this moment, Earth is opening its doors to any ship that needs assistance, any species that needs shelter, any being that needs help. We will not charge for repairs. We will not demand payment. We will simply do what good neighbors do." The council chamber descended into chaos. Species shouted at each other, some demanding immediate military action against Earth, others calling for calm and negotiation. Grand Chancellor Morthus stood frozen, his ancient mind struggling to process what was happening. Thomas Webb remained at the center of the storm, unmoved by the anger and fear surrounding him. He had waited 60 years for this moment. Earth had waited 60 years. And now, finally, humanity was taking its place among the stars. Not as a conquered people, not as a quarantined threat, but as something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that helped simply because it was the right thing to do. The first shots had not been fired. The first treaties had not been signed. But everyone in that chamber knew, without any doubt, that the galaxy would never be the same dot, and somewhere in the darkness of space, Captain Dren adjusted his course toward the blue planet called Earth. Wondering what kind of species would risk everything just to repair a stranger's ship. He was about to find out. Captain Dren had never been so terrified in his life. His ship, the Quiet Dawn, descended through Earth's atmosphere, with half its systems failing and emergency lights flashing in every corridor. His crew of 14, huddled together in the main hold, preparing for what they assumed would be their final moments. The human voice came through the communication system again, calm and reassuring. "Quiet Dawn, this is Terra Station Alpha. We have visual contact. Your landing vector looks good. Emergency teams are standing by. Just keep her steady, Captain. We have got you." Dren gripped the control column with all 4 hands, fighting against the violent shaking of his damaged vessel. Through the view screen, he could see the approaching surface of Earth, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds, swirling in patterns that seemed almost peaceful compared to the chaos inside his ship. Entering final approach, Dren reported, his voice strained. Port stabilizer is failing. I do not know if I can maintain control. You are doing great, Captain. 3 kilometers to touchdown. Our gravity nets are activated. Even if you lose control, we will catch you. Dren did not know what gravity nets were, but he had no choice except to trust. The quiet dawn screamed through the final moments of descent, metal groaning, systems sparking, until suddenly everything became smooth. The violent shaking stopped. The ship slowed gently, as if invisible hands had reached up from the surface and cradled them. When the quiet dawn finally touched down, Dren released a breath he had been holding for what felt like hours. Through the view screen, he could see figures approaching. Humans. They moved quickly, efficiently, pulling equipment behind them, shouting instructions to each other in their strange language. The ship's main hatch opened before Dren could stop it. Human technicians flooded inside, already examining. Damaged systems, already taking measurements and making notes. One of them approached Dren Dyer. Cly, a female with short brown hair and grease stains on her work uniform. Captain Dren? I am Chief Engineer Maria Torres. Welcome to Earth. She extended her hand in what Dren recognized as a human greeting gesture. Let us get your people somewhere comfortable while we fix your ship. Dren stared at her hand and slowly reached out with one of his own. Her grip was firm but gentle. You are not afraid of us? Maria laughed, a sound that startled Dren with its warmth. Afraid? Captain, we have been waiting 60 years to meet someone from out there. This is the most exciting day of my life. She turned and called out to her team. Bring the coffee. And those pastries from the cafeteria? Our guests are probably starving. Within an hour, Dren and his crew found themselves seated in a bright, clean room filled with comfortable furniture and the most unusual smell they had ever experienced. A human placed small cups of dark liquid in front of each of them, steam rising from the surface. This is called coffee, the human explained. Her name was Lieutenant Nina Park, and she had been assigned as their liaison. It is a traditional Earth drink. We share it with friends. Dren lifted the cup carefully and inhaled the steam. The smell was bitter, but somehow pleasant. He took a small sip and felt warmth spread through his body. The taste was unlike anything he had experienced before. Strong, complex, strangely comforting. This is remarkable, Dren admitted. I have traveled to 37 worlds, and I have never tasted anything like this. Nina smiled. Wait until you try the pastries. Over the next several hours, Dren learned more about humans than 60 years of quarantine rulers had ever taught him. They worked constantly, these strange beings. His ship, which any council repair station would have taken 2 weeks to fix, was being rebuilt at incredible speed. Human technicians swarmed over the quiet dawn like insects, but organized and purposeful. Insects who clearly knew exactly what they were doing. More surprising than their speed was their attitude. They asked questions constantly. What systems did the quiet dawn use? How did Valkyrie engine designs differ from others? What materials were common in galactic construction? They were not gathering intelligence for military purposes. They were simply curious. Genuinely, almost childishly curious about everything. Chief Engineer Torres visited Dren in the evening, her face tired but satisfied. Captain, we have found something interesting. Your reactor core uses a resonance frequency that creates minor inefficiencies. We can fix that while we repair the main damage. You would get about 30% better fuel efficiency. Dren's 4 eyes widened. 30%? That is impossible. Our engineers have studied that reactor for generations. Maria shrugged. Fresh eyes, I guess. We have been playing with theoretical models during the quarantine. Never had actual alien technology to test them on. Do you want us to make the modification? Free of charge, obviously. Obviously, Dren repeated slowly. You would give us technology improvements for nothing? That is kind of our thing, Nina added from across the room. We have been alone for 60 years. All we want is friends. And you do not make friends by charging them for help. The next morning, Dren received permission to observe the repair work. What he saw amazed him even more than the coffee. Human engineers had not just fixed his ship, they had improved it. New shield generators that were somehow smaller but more powerful. Engine modifications that the Council would have charged a fortune to develop. Navigation systems upgraded with Earth technology that seemed impossibly advanced. How? Dren asked Maria as they watched her team install the final components. How have you accomplished so much in only 60 years? The Council has been developing technology for thousands of years. Maria wiped her hands on a cloth and considered the question. I think being isolated actually helped us. We had no choice except to figure things out on our own. No one to trade with, no one to buy technology from. So we built everything from scratch, made mistakes, learned from them, and we did not have anyone telling us what was possible or impossible. We just tried things until they worked. She pointed toward the sky, where Earth's orbital stations were visible as bright points of light. See those? We built the first one 12 years ago. Now we have 23, and 3 shipyards, and a defense network that can detect anything approaching our solar system from light years away. Dren felt a chill run through his body. The Council does not know about this. The Council does not know a lot of things about us. Maria's expression became more serious. They put up their quarantine and assumed we would just sit here being primitive. But that is not really how humans work. Tell us we cannot do something, and we take it as a challenge. That evening, Ambassador Thomas Webb visited Dren personally. They sat together in a small garden near the repair facility, surrounded by plants that Dren did not recognize, breathing air that smelled of growth and life. Your ship will be ready tomorrow, Thomas said. Better than new. You can return to your roots. Tell the Council whatever you like about your experience here. Dren was quiet for a long moment. Why? Why did you risk everything to help me? The Council could send warships. They could try to destroy you. Thomas smiled, and there was something ancient in that expression. Something that spoke of struggle and survival and hard-won wisdom. Because 60 years ago, when we first reached for the stars, we made ourselves a promise. We decided what kind of species we wanted to be. Not conquerors, not isolationists, not followers of someone else's rules. We wanted to be the kind of people who help others simply because they need help. He looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. The galaxy is vast, Captain. And from what we have seen, it is often cruel. Strong species prey on weak ones. Powerful civilizations exploit smaller ones. The Council maintains order, yes, but it is order built on hierarchy and control. We want to offer something different. What? Dren asked. Partnership, Thomas replied. True partnership. We have technology we are willing to share. We have resources we are willing to trade. And we have something else. Something the galaxy seems to have forgotten. What is that? Thomas turned to face Dren directly, and the captain saw in those human eyes a fire that had been burning for 60 years. Hope, Thomas said simply. We have hope, and we think the galaxy could use some. The quiet dawn departed Earth the following day, its engines humming with new power, its systems running better than they had in years. Dren stood at the view screen and watched the blue planet grow smaller behind him. He was carrying more than repairs back to the galaxy. He was carrying a message. A message about a species that gave freely, that asked for nothing in return, that had spent 60 years of isolation becoming something the Council had never anticipated. And as he jumped to faster-than-light speed, Dren realized he was not afraid anymore. He was excited. The galaxy was about to meet humanity. Really meet them, and nothing would ever be the same. Word spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Velthari merchant captain had visited Earth. He had received repairs. He had returned with impossible technology and stories of strange, generous aliens who shared coffee and asked for nothing in return. Within 3 weeks, 12 more ships had quietly diverted to Earth for repairs. Within 3 months, the number had grown to over 200. Merchant vessels, exploration ships, even a few military scouts from smaller species who wanted to see the truth for themselves. Earth welcomed them all. The Council Chamber had not known such chaos in 500 years. Grand Chancellor Morthus stood at the center of the storm, watching species that had been loyal to Council authority for millennia now openly questioning the quarantine. Representatives shouted at each other. Ancient alliances cracked under the weight of new information. And everywhere, the same questions repeated. What were the humans actually doing? Why were they helping everyone? What did they want? Ambassador Krell of the Synther Collective approached Morthus privately, her mechanical body moving with precise efficiency. Grand Chancellor, we have a problem that mathematics alone cannot solve. The humans are not following any predictable pattern. They give freely. They ask nothing. This violates every model of species behavior in our database. They must want something, Morthus growled. Every species wants something. Power, resources, territory. The humans are simply playing a longer game. Perhaps, Krell admitted, but our intelligence suggests they genuinely believe in what they call partnership. They are teaching other species how to build better ships, how to improve their weapons, how to grow more food. They are distributing knowledge that took them decades to develop, and they are doing it with no conditions attached. Morthus felt a cold anger building in his chest. Then they are fools, and we must act before their foolishness destroys the order we have built. 3 days later, a Council war fleet assembled at the edge of the Sol system. 47 capital ships, 200 support vessels, enough firepower to reduce Earth to rubble. Grand Chancellor Morthus himself led the fleet. Determined to end the human threat before it grew any stronger. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel and immediately found themselves surrounded. Human ships appeared from every direction. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. They ranged from small, fast attack craft to massive vessels that dwarfed even the largest Council dreadnoughts. They did not fire. They simply positioned themselves in a sphere around the Council fleet, blocking every possible escape route. Grand Chancellor, the fleet commander reported, his voice trembling. We are detecting over 4,000 human vessels. Their weapons are charged, but not targeting. They are holding position. Morthus stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 4,000? That is impossible. Our intelligence said they had perhaps 200 ships at most. A communication request appeared on his screen. He accepted it, and the face of Ambassador Thomas Webb materialized before him. Grand Chancellor Morthus, Thomas said calmly. Welcome to our solar system. I hope you had a pleasant journey. Do not play games with me, human. You see our fleet. You know why we are here. Thomas nodded slowly. I do. You are here to threaten us into submission, to destroy our world if necessary, to maintain the quarantine that was supposed to keep us isolated forever. He paused. It is not going to work. You are outnumbered, Morthus said, though even as the words left his mouth, he realized how ridiculous they sounded. Thomas actually laughed. Grand Chancellor, please look at your sensors again. We have 47 of your ships surrounded by 4,000 of ours. And before you think about fighting your way out, let me show you something." The human gestured, and the main view screen displayed a new image. Earth, beautiful and blue, just as all the visitors had described. But orbiting the planet was something new. A structure so vast it defied comprehension. A ring of metal and light that circled the entire world, bristling with weapons that made Council technology look primitive. "We call it the Guardian Ring," Thomas explained. "We finished it 6 months ago. It can destroy any fleet that approaches Earth without permission. Your 47 ships would not even get close enough to see our atmosphere." Morthus felt his scales grow cold. "You have been preparing for war." "We have been preparing to defend ourselves," Thomas corrected. "There is a difference. For 60 years, we knew this day would come. The Council would eventually decide we were too dangerous to leave alone. So we prepared. We built ships. We built defenses. We made sure that when you came to destroy us, you would find that destroying us was not an option." The Council fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by human vessels, facing a weapon system that could annihilate them all. Morthus had never felt so helpless in his 12 centuries of life. "What do you want?" he finally asked. Thomas leaned forward, his expression becoming serious. "The same thing we have wanted since the beginning. Partnership. Real partnership. Not the Council's version where some species give orders and others follow. We want a seat at the table. We want the quarantine lifted. We want the freedom to help whoever asks for our help without Council interference. And if we refuse, then you can stay right where you are," Thomas replied. "Your crews will need food eventually. Water, medical supplies. We have plenty of all three. We will send provisions to your ships for as long as necessary. We will not fire a single shot. We will simply wait until you realize that cooperation is better than confrontation." Morthus felt the weight of every eye on his fleet watching him. His commanders, his crew, the entire Council, waiting to see what he would do. He had ruled the galaxy for centuries through strength and intimidation. And now, for the first time, he faced a species that could not be intimidated. "You would really just wait?" he asked. "Feed our crews while we decide whether to attack you?" "Yes," Thomas said simply. "Because that is who we are. We do not want enemies, Grand Chancellor. We want friends. Even you. Especially you. The Council has knowledge and experience that took millennia to accumulate. We have energy and ideas and a fresh perspective. Together, we could accomplish things neither of us could manage alone." A voice came from behind Morthus. It was Elder Tom of the Palace, who had somehow managed to join the fleet without the Chancellor's knowledge. The gentle giant moved forward, his massive form dwarfing everyone around him. "He speaks truth," Elder Tom said quietly. "I have visited Earth myself. I have seen what they are building. Not just weapons and ships. Schools, hospitals, research centers open to any species that wishes to learn. The humans are not preparing for war, Grand Chancellor. They are preparing for peace. A peace that includes everyone, even those who fear them." Morthus turned to face the palace elder. "You violated the quarantine?" "I did, and I would do it again. Because what I found on Earth was something I had not seen in 3,000 years of life in this galaxy. I found hope." Elder Tom's ancient eyes met the Chancellor's. "The humans have hope, Morthus. Real hope. And they are sharing it freely with anyone who will accept it." The Council chamber waited in tense silence as Morthus wrestled with his decision. His entire understanding of galactic politics was crumbling around him. The humans had outmaneuvered him at every turn, not through deception or aggression, but through simple, stubborn kindness. Finally, after what felt like hours, Grand Chancellor Morthus spoke. "Stand down weapons. All vessels stand down. The tension in the fleet dissolved instantly. Human ships began pulling back, creating a corridor toward Earth. And through the communication channel, Ambassador Thomas Webb smiled. "Grand Chancellor, I believe we have much to discuss. Would you like to join me for coffee?" Morthus felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Surprise. Then, slowly, something else. Something that might have been the beginning of respect. "Yes," he said quietly. "I believe I would." As the Council fleet followed the human escort toward Earth, the galaxy held its breath. An era was ending. A new one was beginning. And at the center of it all, a small blue planet waited to show the universe what partnership really meant. The humans had not just built a war fleet. They had built a future, and they were ready to share it. The negotiations lasted 17 days. 17 days of arguments, compromises, and more coffee than Grand Chancellor Morthus had ever consumed in his long life. But when the final document was signed, something unprecedented had occurred. Earth was no longer quarantined. Humanity was officially recognized as a full member of the galactic community. More importantly, a new provision had been added to Council law, the Partnership Protocol. Any species could now offer assistance to any other species without seeking Council approval first. The old rules of hierarchy and permission were beginning to crumble. 6 months after the signing, Ambassador Thomas Webb stood on the observation deck of Terra Station Prime, watching ships from 30 different species dock at Earth's orbital facilities. The station hummed with activity. Engineers exchanged knowledge. Scientists shared discoveries. Merchants traded goods without the crushing taxes the Council had imposed for millennia. "You look tired," a voice said behind him. Thomas turned to find Maria Torres approaching, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. The chief engineer had become something of a celebrity after her work on Captain Dren's ship. She had been promoted 3 times, but still preferred working with her hands. "Tired but satisfied," Thomas replied, accepting the coffee. "Do you remember what it was like before? When we could only look at the stars and wonder." "I remember." Maria stood beside him, watching a Kelfani transport ship glide past the observation window. "I remember being told we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, that we needed to stay in our little corner of the galaxy and behave ourselves. And now?" Maria smiled. "Now they come to us, asking for help, asking for technology, asking to learn." She shook her head in amazement. "We went from quarantined primitives to the most visited world in the outer spiral in less than a year. What neither of them mentioned was the true cost of that success. The sleepless nights, the constant diplomatic pressure, the threats that still came from Council factions who refused to accept the new order. Humanity had won its freedom, but maintaining that freedom required eternal vigilance. 3 weeks later, the first crisis struck. A distress signal reached Earth from the Myral system, 27 light-years away. The Myral were a peaceful species, farmers and artists, who had never developed significant military capabilities. Now their world was under attack. Harken raiders, the same pirates who had damaged Captain Dren's ship, had arrived with a fleet of 200 warships. They were demanding tribute, slaves, surrender. The Council received the same distress signal and responded with their standard procedure. Form a committee. Assess the situation. Schedule a vote. The process would take weeks. The Myral would be conquered long before any decision was reached. Earth responded differently. Within 6 hours of receiving the signal, the first Terran relief fleet launched from Earth orbit. 47 warships under the command of Admiral Rebecca Stone. She was 43 years old, had served in Earth's defensive forces for 20 years, and had never fired a weapon in actual combat. None of them had. Humanity had built a war fleet, but had never used it. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone. Her voice was calm as she addressed her fleet from the bridge of the battleship Endeavour. We are about to engage hostile forces for the first time in human history. I know you are nervous. I am too. But remember why we are here. Millions of innocent people are counting on us. The Myral asked for help. And we answered. That is what humans do. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Myral system and immediately encountered chaos. Harken raiders swarmed around the Myral homeworld like angry insects. Orbital stations burned. Defense satellites lay shattered. And on the planet's surface, cities smoldered under bombardment. Contact the Harken command ship, Rebecca ordered. Open channel. A scarred face appeared on her view screen. Warlord Craft of the Harken Dominion, feared across 100 systems for his brutality. He looked at Rebecca with contempt. Humans? You dare interfere with Harken conquest? Craft laughed, revealing rows of sharpened teeth. Your species is new to the galaxy. Let me teach you your first lesson. This is not your concern. Leave now, and I will not hunt you down after I finish with these farmers. Rebecca stood calmly, hands clasped behind her back. Warlord Craft, I am Admiral Rebecca Stone of the Terran Defense Force. The Myral asked for our help. We are here to provide it. You have one chance to withdraw your forces peacefully. Take it. Craft's laughter filled the bridge. One chance? Little human, I have 200 ships. You have less than 50. Even if your technology is impressive, you cannot defeat us with those numbers. You are probably right, Rebecca admitted. We cannot defeat you with these numbers. She paused, and something cold entered her expression. That is why we brought more. Behind the First Fleet, space itself seemed to tear open. Jump points activated in sequence, each one delivering more ships. The Second Fleet, the Third Fleet, the Fourth. Human vessels poured into the system until the Harken raiders found themselves outnumbered 3-1. Krav's expression changed from contempt to confusion to fear in a matter of seconds. This is impossible. Our intelligence said you had only 100 warships. Your intelligence was wrong. Rebecca stepped forward, her image filling Craft's view screen. Now, I gave you one chance to withdraw. That chance has passed. All ships, weapons free. Protect the Myral. Disable the raiders. Minimize casualties where possible. The battle lasted 4 hours. Human tactics were unconventional, developed through simulation and theory rather than actual combat experience. But what they lacked in experience, they made up for in coordination and technology. Shield frequencies adapted in real time. Weapons targeted critical systems rather than aiming for destruction. And most surprisingly, human ships worked to disable rather than destroy. When the last Harken raider surrendered, 67 of their vessels had been captured. Only 11 had been destroyed, and most of those had refused all offers of surrender. Human casualties were remarkably light. 3 ships damaged, none destroyed, 18 crew members injured. 2 killed. Rebecca stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching rescue teams deploy to the Myral surface. The planet's main cities were damaged, but not destroyed. Millions of lives had been saved. But she felt no joy. Only the weight of the 2 names that would now be added to Earth's first military memorial. Lieutenant James Okafor, Ensign Priya Sharma, the first humans to die in combat among the stars. The news of the Battle of Myral spread across the galaxy faster than light itself could travel. The humans had come when called. They had fought and won. And they had done it not for conquest or profit, but simply because someone needed help. Ambassador Thomas Webb watched the reports come in from his office on Earth. Gratitude from the Myral. Shock from the Council. Fear from species who had hoped humanity would prove easy to manipulate. And underneath it all, a new emotion spreading through the galaxy. Hope, that the same hope Elder Tom had spoken of. The hope that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy did not have to be ruled by the strong crushing the weak. That partnership could actually work. That a species could be powerful and still be kind. A communication request appeared on his screen. Grand Chancellor Morthis. Thomas accepted the call. The ancient chancellor looked tired, older than Thomas had ever seen him. But there was something different in his eyes. Something that might have been respect. Ambassador Webb, I have received reports from the Myral system. Your forces performed remarkably well. Thank you, Grand Chancellor. We did what was necessary. Morthis was quiet for a long moment. I have lived 1,200 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species destroy each other over resources and pride and fear. In all that time, I have never seen what I witnessed today. A species risking their own lives to save strangers, asking nothing in return. Thomas leaned back in his chair. We are not doing anything special, Grand Chancellor. We are just being human. Perhaps that is what makes it special. Morthis straightened his ancient frame. Ambassador, I believe the galaxy owes your people an apology. We quarantined you out of fear. We assumed you were dangerous. And you are. But not in the way we expected. What do you mean? Morthis smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Thomas had ever seen on the Chancellor's face. You are dangerous to the old ways. The comfortable ways. The ways that allowed species like mine to maintain power by keeping everyone else divided and afraid. You are showing the galaxy that another way is possible. A better way. Thomas felt hope rising in his chest. Does this mean the Council will support the partnership protocol? It means I will personally ensure that the Council supports it, Morthis replied. You were right, Ambassador. Cooperation is better than confrontation. Perhaps it takes a young species to remind an old one of that truth. The communication ended, and Thomas sat alone in his office, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Myral were rebuilding. Somewhere out there, the Harkin were reconsidering their way of life. And somewhere out there, millions of beings were hearing the story of how humans had come when called. The galaxy was changing, slowly, painfully, but it was changing, and humanity was leading the way. 10 years had passed since. Captain Dren's damaged ship first approached Earth for repairs. 10 years since humanity broke its quarantine and offered the galaxy something it had never seen before. 10 years of building, teaching, helping, and slowly transforming the way civilizations treated each other. Ambassador, Thomas Webb stood at the center of the new Galactic Council chamber. Not the old one, with its towering architecture designed to intimidate. This chamber was built on neutral ground, a space station constructed by 30 species working together. Its design was collaborative. Its purpose was partnership. Thomas was 87 years old now, his hair completely white, his movements slower than they once were. But his mind remained sharp, and his voice still carried the conviction that had challenged the galaxy a decade earlier. Representatives of the Council, he said, addressing the assembled delegates. We gather today to celebrate an anniversary. But more than that, we gather to acknowledge how far we have come. The chamber held over 500 species now, nearly 100 more than when Thomas first violated the quarantine. Many of them had joined specifically because of the partnership protocol. Small species, forgotten species, species that had been told for centuries that they did not matter. Now they had voices. Now they had seats at the table. Grand Chancellor Morthis rose from his position. He was ancient beyond comprehension now. His scales faded to pale silver, his 6 eyes clouded with age. But he had refused to step down. He said he wanted to see how the story ended. When the humans first appeared in this chamber, Morthis said, his voice carrying through translation fields, I believed they were a threat. I believed their ideas of partnership were naive. I believed the galaxy would destroy them for their foolishness. He paused, looking around at the transformed council. I was wrong. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Grand Chancellor admitting error was unprecedented. The humans showed us something we had forgotten, Marthas continued. They showed us that strength does not require cruelty, that power does not require oppression, that a species can be mighty and still be kind. He turned to face Thomas directly. Ambassador Webb, in my 1,200 years, I have never met anyone braver than you. Not because you faced our warships, but because you faced our hatred with compassion. You answered our fear with friendship, and you refused to become what we expected you to be. Thomas smiled, feeling the weight of years in his bones, but also the warmth of accomplishment in his heart. Grand Chancellor, I am just one man. Earth is just one planet. What we accomplished together. All of us. Every species that chose partnership over conflict. Every civilization that decided to help instead of exploit. We built this new galaxy together. A figure emerged from the crowd of delegates. Captain Dren, now Admiral Dren of the Velthary Merchant Guard, walked forward with his forearms clasped behind his back. He was older, too, gray streaking through his storm-colored skin, but his eyes still held the wonder of that first day on Earth. I was the first, Dren said. The first to land on Earth after the quarantine. The first to taste human coffee. The first to see what they were really building. He turned to address the full chamber. I was terrified when my ship approached that blue planet. I thought I was flying toward my death. Instead, I found something I had given up hoping for. I found friends. He reached into his uniform and pulled out a small container. Inside was a handful of brown beans. The humans gave me these when I left. Coffee beans. They said if I planted them on my world, I could grow more. Share the taste with my people. I did. And now Velthary coffee houses exist on 43 worlds, each one built as a place where species can sit together, drink together, talk together. Dren held up the container. This is what humans gave us. Not just technology. Not just military support. They gave us a reason to sit down with strangers and share something good. One by one, other delegates rose to speak. Elder Tom of Apellis, his gentle voice describing how human medical techniques had extended Pellis lifespans by decades. Ambassador Krell of the Synther, her mechanical form upgraded with human design, components that allowed her collective to process emotions for the first time in 10,000 years. Representative Mora of the Myral, whose people had rebuilt their civilization with human help after the Harkon attack. Each story was different. Each species had received something unique. But the thread connecting them all was the same. Humanity had helped without asking for anything in return. Out as the testimonies continued, a young human officer approached Thomas. Lieutenant Elena Foster, part of the new generation that had grown up in a galaxy where Earth was not quarantined, but celebrated. Ambassador, there is something you should see. She led Thomas to a side room where a view screen displayed an image that made his heart stop. Ships. Thousands of ships. But not human ships. Ships from dozens of species, all gathered in a single fleet, all displaying a new emblem on their hulls. A blue planet wrapped in silver lines, surrounded by stars of every color. What is this? Thomas asked. The partnership fleet, Elena explained. 47 species have contributed vessels. They formed it last month in secret as a surprise for today's anniversary. They say it is their gift to humanity. A promise that if Earth ever needs help, the galaxy will answer. Thomas stared at the screen, unable to speak. 10 years ago, he had stood alone in the council chamber, facing the judgment of 400 species. He had gambled everything on the belief that kindness was stronger than fear. That partnership was better than dominion. No. 47 species had built a fleet to protect the people who had protected them. He returned to the main chamber, where Grand Chancellor Morthus was concluding his remarks. "The universe is vast," Morthus said, "ancient beyond comprehension. In all that vastness, life is rare. Intelligence is rarer still, and wisdom is rarest of all. For millennia, we believed wisdom meant strength, control, domination. The humans taught us something different. They taught us that true wisdom is knowing when to offer a hand instead of a fist." The Chancellor raised his aged arms toward the assembled delegates. "Today, I officially propose a new charter for the Galactic Council. No longer shall we be a body that maintains order through hierarchy. We shall become what the humans always believed we could be: a partnership, a family, a community of equals, bound not by fear but by choice." The vote was unanimous. 500 species, each one raising their voice, their appendage, their signal of agreement. The old council was dissolved. In its place rose something new, something that had never existed before, a true partnership of worlds. Thomas Webb watched the celebration begin, felt hands and tentacles and claws patting his shoulders in gratitude, heard voices in 100 languages offering thanks. But through it all, his mind drifted back to the beginning, to a damaged ship approaching Earth, to a simple decision to help a stranger. Maria Torres found him later, standing alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She was 71 now, retired from engineering, but still unable to stay away from ships and stations. "Quite a day," she said. "Quite a decade," Thomas replied. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the partnership fleet maneuver past the station, each ship a testament to what the galaxy had become. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Maria asked. "Opening ourselves to the galaxy? Some people back home still think we should have stayed isolated, built our defenses, and let the rest of the universe burn." Thomas considered the question. He thought about the risks, the battles, the lives lost, the constant pressure of being the species that chose kindness in a cruel universe. "I think," he said slowly, "that we chose to be human. And being human means reaching out, connecting, helping, even when it is dangerous, even when it hurts." He turned to face her, and despite his age, his eyes still held the fire that had challenged the galaxy. "We approached Earth for repairs. Humanity brought upgrades, coffee, and a war fleet. But what we really brought was an idea. The idea that the galaxy does not have to be what it has always been. That change is possible. That hope is not foolish." Maria smiled. "And now?" Thomas looked out at the stars, at the future that humanity had helped create. "Now we keep building, keep helping, keep being human." He took a deep breath. The galaxy is a big place. There are species we have not met, problems we have not solved. But if we have proven anything in the last 10 years, it is that we do not have to face any of it alone. In the distance, the partnership fleet completed its formation. Ships from 47 species, united under a banner that showed Earth at its center. Not because Earth ruled them, because Earth had shown them another way. Ambassador Thomas Webb, the man who had broken the quarantine and challenged the council and refused to accept that cruelty was inevitable, smiled at the sight. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had led the way, not through conquest, not through domination, through coffee, through kindness, through the simple, stubborn belief that helping others was always worth the risk. That was the human way. And now, finally, it was becoming the galactic way too.